Hey guys, just thought I'd make a video again. I probably won't make one tomorrow unless something insane happens, which let's hope it doesn't. Just having a bad night. Just been kind of, I don't know, depressing. You ever had those, because you know our situations. So you're going to have depressing days, and today's definitely been one of them. I've just been down today. Do you ever think about guys? We can get through this light. I can't go fast. I can't go fast in this car right now. I'll get to that sometime. But anyway, you just get so frustrated, and you feel like, I don't know. Did you ever feel like you were just born in the wrong time? I remember there was a guy that I see a lot of time. He's in his 60s, but he has a grandson, and now I don't know his whole situation. I don't know his grandson, but he said his grandson's about 22 years old, never had a job, I think, or something like that, doesn't work. I'm sure, as far as I know, he still is, and I don't know. Doesn't have any friends, has no money, I guess. Like I said, his situation might be different now. This is back when he told me, I guess his son would be about 23 now. 23 or 24. And he said his grandson looked at him one time and he just said, "Dad, I was born in the wrong time." And sometimes it's very simplistic. That's very insightful for somebody that age. Of course, he has the internet and he can read and study, but I know I feel like that sometimes. Like, I just wasn't born in the right time, And it's just so frustrating, because I don't know if y'all ever feel like that, man. Because you think about it as guys in the United States. If you study American history, if we had been, and I know, you could have been born in the Great Depression, it could have been, I get it, okay? I get all that. But I don't know if you've ever thought, if we had been born in a different time, things would have been so different. Think of the baby boomers, Most of them, not all of them, of course. The South was always a little poorer than the North here, but, you think of the baby boomers. They were born in the best time you could have been in America. Man, if you were born between 45 and, like, it was 64, I can't remember the exact dates. That was the last golden age of America, man. I mean, everything was laid out for you. Even if you weren't wealthy, even if you weren't going to go to college, or university, and most Americans, I don't think, did. You may not have had the best. You might not have been upper class or anything like that, the upper crust and all of that stuff, but you were able to find a job, a decent job, to support a family. Like I said, you may not be the richest guy in town, but you could have a job, and you could have a wife and have a couple of kids, maybe 2 or 3 kids. You could have done it. Wasn't perfect, it wasn't the best, but you could have done it and had a happy life in general. Nothing's perfect, but you could have, in general, had a pretty happy life. And I think about us a lot like that. We weren't born into that, man. I was born in the 80s, and it was like the country was already, if you study history, the country was already in free fall by then. Things were already starting to go. Of course, by the 90s, which my teen years were then, it was already, that was probably the last decent time in the country. But then after that, everything just went downhill by the 2000s. It's just gotten worse and worse. And now, look at us now at in 2021. It looks pretty bleak. Especially for men, but it looks pretty bleak in general. And I don't know if y'all have ever thought like that. I think like that a lot. Like, man, if I'd just been born in a different time. And here's what makes me think. Boomers, not all of them, of course, but a lot of the baby boomers, they're quick to judge. Boy, look at these millennials. I remember them even judging the Generation X people. Look at all, they're just weird and lazy. The men are lazy, and they won't get good jobs, and they won't grow up, and they won't, you'll hear all this stuff. And I get it from what they're looking at, but, the Bible always says, to be careful how you judge. We have to make judgments sometimes. You got to judge a person sometimes. And the Bible does say make righteous judgment. But it's talking about be careful how you judge. And I think one of the things God would tell you is one of the reasons you should be careful to judge, not just because God disapproves, is you don't know the story, man. You don't know the whole story. Did he have what you had growing up? Did he grow up in the white picket fence and that sweet little family and the mom and dad and the dad just had it was Ward Cleaver and June, was it that? Did he grow up and leave it to Beaver? Did he grow up and then just go off the rails? Probably not. That doesn't make it right what he did. But he probably grew up much different than you. Did he have a father? Did he have a good father? Did he have a father at all? Was he even there? Did he have mental problems? Autism has grown by leaps and bounds in the United States. I know, I'm autistic myself. It's grown by leaps and bounds in this nation the last number of years. It really started shooting up after the 1990s. Most of those baby boomers wouldn't even have a clue what that was. That didn't even exist back then, hardly. It did, but it was so few and far between. It was so minute. They never even saw that. And that's the thing. Did you go without a father? Did you have neurotypical problems? Or I should say, neurotypical means you're normal. Neurodivergent means that you're probably autistic. You have something wrong with your neurosystem. Did you have all that intact? Are you okay? Did you grow up? Did your father have a good job? If you had a father, were y'all poor? Did you have a lot of money? Were you ugly like he was? I'm trying to be nice. Were you ugly? Were you the odd person out? Did you have a lot of difficulties with those things? That's what I think the Bible's saying in one of those ways. You don't know the story, man. You don't know what people are going through. You don't understand. It's not so cut and dry. You think, I could just defy the odds. I could grow up with no father, learning disability, being short like me. There's another one. Were you short growing up? Were you a tall kid? Did you get bullied a lot? That might have hurt your self-esteem. Were there any jobs in your neighborhood growing up, right? Did you even have good jobs? Yeah, back then, you could make a decent living in the 1950s and 60s. And in this area, really up until about the mid-70s. Wasn't perfect, but jobs were decent here. You had plenty of factory jobs that you could at least make a living, like I said, and have a family. You can't do that anymore here. And of course, without an education, you can't do anything much anymore of any quality, economically. Nothing. And it's another issue. I'm going to pull in here, guys. That's why I stopped talking for a second. But, that's the whole point, man. People don't understand. They take everything in life for granted so much because they don't know. They don't know the story. They don't know how hard it's been for them than it was you. Like I said, you think you can defy the odds. I can grow up without a family. I can grow up with a learning disability. I can grow up poor. I can do all that, and I'll make it. I'll make something of myself. Really? Really? There were several studies done that shows that most people pretty much stay in their economic situation. If they're upper class, they're upper class, they're middle class, they'll stay middle class, they'll probably go up and be middle class. If they're lower class, they'll probably end up being lower class. Obviously not every time, but this is on average. So what does that mean? Very few people overcome their situation. Very few. I wish I could give the stat to what that was. I don't have it with me. Like I said, that's why I wish I had me a video sharing software I could do that and show you. But I've read that stat. Most stay in their situation. Most don't even leave their neighborhoods. Many people get married and live in the same neighborhood they grew up in. It doesn't sound like people are really moving up. They're not overcoming the odds. They're doing just enough to get by. So if you take some of that away, let's take that away. My father was not born in severe poverty. They weren't wealthy, but he wasn't born in severe poverty. I wasn't born in severe poverty, but we were poor because my dad died. He had a good job until, he died. Then we were left with nothing. And my dad was also not very short. He wasn't tall, but my dad was about 6 feet. If you're 6 feet, I'd take that, you know. I'm 5'7", 5'6", 5'7". So there you go again. I'm short. We all know it's harder for shorter guys. Oh, I'm short. I never had no problems. Yeah, you may not have. But for most people that are short, especially guys, they do have problems. That's the genuine rule. It just is. You get picked on more. You have a harder time in life. You have a harder time finding clothes to fit you because you're short. The clothes don't fit. I know. I've gone through that my whole life. You know, did my dad grow up autistic? No. My dad, as far as I can tell, I never knew my dad. He died, but as far as I know, he didn't have that problem. But my dad did not move up the ladder very much. Now, he did make a little more than his dad did. I will say that, because his dad didn't have the opportunity that he had. Yeah, I ain't going to get into that whole situation, but my grandfather kind of had a tough childhood. But he did okay. Not great, but he did good enough. But, yeah. But that's the thing, man. Did you grow up with everything in place? Was all the T's crossed? Was all the I's dotted? You know? Was all the rocks in place? Was all the toys in place? Was everything right? Well, then, yeah, you probably did okay. What if a lot of those things were missing? You had a life like mine. You had a life like some of these other guys that I see online. What if you were literally ugly? And I'm being serious. I'm not trying to be sarcastic. What if you were literally ugly? What would it be like for you, man? Some people aren't great looking, but they're not ugly. What if you're ugly? Look at Elephant Man. They talk about that. He was a great person. I think he really was a great human being, but he was ugly. And if you notice, he never married and never reproduced. Why? Gee, I can't figure it out, So, be careful not to judge. And, it just makes you think, guys. I know I'm kind of rambling, but it's just like, it was just a perfect storm to cause failure. I wasn't born without a father. I had a dad. Pretty much born with a neurobiological disease. Father dies when I'm 4 years old. Mom never remarries. We're pretty much poor. Grew up in a rural area. Didn't have a lot of economic opportunity. All the jobs started going away by the time I'm a teenager. Even factory jobs, I at least could have done something, right? They all disappear. I couldn't have probably done the jobs anyway because of my disability. I was short. Lost my hair because of the benzo withdrawal. Went through benzo. I went through a lot, man. And like I said, I'm not even talking about just me. There's a lot of people out there that have had, especially in this country now, guys have it really hard in this country now. And there's just not a lot of way outs for them. Well, guys, I guess that's all I'm going to say. I've been videoing for 15 minutes. This person pulled up. They're looking at me like, why am I videoing? I ain't videoing them. There we go. I'll move it over. But take care, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I try to make videos that can help. And sometimes I just need to vent a little bit and gripe and complain. But take care, guys. Have a good one. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.